You
Yeah.
know, there's places in the world like I got a guy I work with. He's from I think Uganda, bro. They barely eat meat, man. Because to eat meat, they got to kill a cow. That's a
Yeah.
rare thing to do. Their
Yep.
diet is mainly vegetarian because they can't afford to be killing all the cows. Whereas in America, they be just they be just you know what I mean? They got cow meat on tap,
Yep.
literally. But that's gonna come to an end.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, luxury. Eating meat, you know what?
It's a luxury.
Eating meat is a luxury, man.
It is.
The Western diet, they eat meat in every meal for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. Some places in the world, they eat meat like once in a while.
Yeah, it's not common. That's right. Yep, there were Stenaho, and Stranos. I think that's how you say it.
Strong's G 4764. Strenas. Strenas.
Excessive strength, which longs to break forth. Luxury, eager desire. All right.
Yeah, it always reminds me of I don't know if brothers have seen the movie Shutters, but there's a scene in the movie Shutters where he's staying with his auntie, and his auntie sends him into the shop to get some tin mackerel, and he was upset because he got to eat tin mackerel again, and she said, "I want make you not go to America with your mother where you can yam steak." That shit was hilarious.
All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahoya from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. I want to go into a lesson based on the clip that the elder from London brought out. And it's a statement concerning meat being a luxury item. All right, and I want to show how it relates to the scriptures first and foremost. All right, some of the current news on meat being a luxury, and then some ancient information or some information on the ancient world and how they viewed meat and its abundance or lack thereof. All right, so I want to start off first with this article. All right, and it says Meat Atlas 2021, Everyday Food and Luxury Good. Now, it says this, right? It says the global demand for meat continues to rise due to economic and population growth, but at a slower pace than 10 years ago. Poultry accounts for an increasingly large share of consumption. Large differences remain in consumption per capita between countries and among population groups. Worldwide consumption of meat has more than doubled in the past 20 years, reaching 320 million tons in 2018. The global population has risen, as have incomes. Both factors contribute roughly equally to rising demand for meat. That's good news for the meat industry. Consumption is forecast to rise by another 13% by 2028. Now, I wanted to bring that out through the spirit because even in this time, there's a correlation with meat being luxury. All right. The reason that global consumption has increased is because, more people have access to meat. All right. Where they don't have to actually raise up cows and actually kill them. All right. The meat industry in itself has contributed to the consumption on a global level, which is unseen. All right. Since in history, really. All right. Because when you think about what the elder mentioned in the ancient world, you really couldn't afford to eat meat every day unless you were wealthy. All right. Not just rich, but wealthy. And he mentioned that you had to kill a cow. All right. Which a cow has a lot of utilities. All right. It's not just meat. But a lot of times living in this society, those type of things are not really taken into account and are oftentimes taken for granted. All right. And that's why I want to go into this, because when the elder mentioned it, I wanted to go into it a little in depth just to kind of do some research for myself. All right. And then I wanted to bring it out through the spirit because it was a beautiful point. All right. So let me get this. I want to go to before I get to the next article, I want to go into the Apocrypha. All right, and I want to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 37. All right, and because even in the scriptures, it exhorts you not to be excessive with meats. All right, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 37 and verse 30, and it reads, "For excess of meats." You know what? Let me start at 29, and it reads, "Be not unsatiable in any dainty thing, nor too greedy upon meats." Now, I'm bringing this out to just show and highlight what the elder brought out about scarcity, about meat being a luxury. All right. Because again, through the Spirit, you know, we use the world, but we don't abuse the world. This isn't a lesson to not eat meat, but it's just a lesson through the Spirit to bring out some of the points that the elder brought out in more detail with some articles. Because I thought it was a beautiful point. You know, the whole lesson overall was a great edifying video or lesson on what's going on in the world. But that point through the Spirit was one of those points that I wanted to jot down and do some extra research on. And through the Spirit, I wanted to just bring this out. You know, when you look through the scriptures, there's always a mention of meat being scarce and a example of luxury. And it's not obvious in many ways, but I'll bring out two examples that kind of show and highlight that meat for a meal was a status symbol. It may have been a representation of a celebration, or it may have been a celebration of someone's wealth. All right, they could splurge on meat. You know, they had money. They had the ability to kill a calf weekly or monthly or whatever the case may be. All right, so again, there's Ecclesiastes 37 and 29. "Be not unsatiable in any dainty thing, nor too greedy upon meats, for excess of meats bringeth sickness, and surfeiting will turn into choler." All right, now let's get this word. Let's get this word choler. All right, so I'm going to just open up an extra tab. I just want to get this word choler. All right, so let's see what we have. All right, choler, it says, in medieval science and medicine, one of the four bodily humors identified with bile and believed to be associated with a peevish or irascible temperament. It says yellow bile. Let's get the etymon. Bear with me. I just want to explore this to see if it's a point. All right. So this is etymon of choler. And it says bile as one of humors, in excess of which supposed in old medicine to cause irascibility or temper. Okay. And real quick, while I have it, irascibility is having or showing a tendency to be easily angered. All right. So let's go back to this Ecclesiastes 37 and continuing down at verse 30. For excess of meats bringeth sickness, and surfeiting will turn into choler. All right. It says, by surfeiting have many perished, but he that taketh heed prolongeth his life. All right. And the point that I want to make through the Spirit was to show and highlight the example of the wisdom being given in the scriptures in Sirach or Ecclesiasticus concerning being greedy upon meats, all right, or excessive upon meats. Now, even in this day and age, with all of the technology and all of the knowledge that has increased, meat is still treated as a luxury. All right, and this brings me back to the article. All right, with the Meat Atlas. All right, I want to jump down. I'm not going to read through the entire thing. I just want to jump down because there was a point that was made. All right, it says this. But for many people around the world, meat is still a luxury item whose consumption depends heavily on income. All right, and that's the point. All right, because even in the ancient world, it depended on income, but the rich or the money was different, right? because again, the money in the ancient world, you were rich in substance. You weren't just rich with fiat currency. All right, and let's get an example of that. This is why, let's get it. This is Genesis 13:2, and it reads, and Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. All right, so it mentions cattle, all right, which is more than meat. It offers more than meat, but it shows you an example of actual rich or wealth, which is substance. Okay, so even in this new age, all right, where you have fiat currency, it's still recognized that meat is a luxury item whose consumption depends heavily on income. All right, because your ability to have access to meat depends on your ability to be able to buy the meat. But in the ancient world, it hinged upon how much cattle you actually had and how much you could afford to kill for a meal. All right. Now, you did preserve meat with salt. However, through the spirit, you understand that cattle was a utility. It served more purpose than just meat. All right, we'll get the other article. All right, this is a perfect segue into the other article to highlight the ancient world and how they dealt with meat. All right, so it's this is ancient, well, it's localhistories.org, and it says ancient food. All right, we're just going to show the food in ancient Egypt. It says, for most people in ancient Egypt, food was plain and dull. The staple food of the Egyptians was bread and beer. The bread was baked outside, and because of the desert sand was often blown into the dough. In time, eating bread with grains of sand in it wore down people's teeth. All right, now I want to show this. Okay, it says, in ancient Egypt, as in all early civilizations, meat was a luxury, and only the rich could afford to eat it frequently. Nevertheless, the Egyptians ate sheep, pigs, cows, and goats, but meat often came from ducks and geese. However, fish were plentiful in Egypt. All right, so even in ancient Egypt, it shows you that meat was a luxury. All right, because again, oftentimes a lot of the animals that are associated with meals today were utilities in the ancient world. All right, sheep are a utility. All right, they provide clothing. All right, you can reproduce. All right, meaning you can increase your flocks by keeping the sheep alive. Showing you goats, they have milk. All of these animals that are seen at Publix and wrappers, you know, plastic wrapped up for $7 or $8, well, at this point, probably $14, $15, $17. In the ancient world, those animals were of more use alive than dead in most cases. And this is why in the scriptures, you'll see examples of a meal with meat being celebrated. All right, now get that through the spirit. I just want to jump down to this next point here. All right, it says food in ancient Egypt. Like Egyptians, ordinary Greeks ate plain food. They lived on a staple diet of bread made from barley or, if you could afford it, wheat, and goat's cheese. Meat was a luxury, but fish and vegetables were plentiful. Ordinary Greeks ate pulses, onions, garlic, and olives. They also ate hen eggs. Peasants caught small birds to eat. The Greeks also ate fruit such as raisins, apricots, figs, apples, pears, and pomegranates. So the diet that now is like a status symbol in this world, veganism, vegetarianism, in the ancient world that was commonplace because people could literally not afford to eat meat daily or often for that matter. All right. Now let's go down to this one. Let's see. I want to jump down to this point right here in the Middle Ages. All right, it says, you know what, I'm going to just jump down to the point. It says, Saxons were fond of meat and fish. However, meat was a luxury, and only the rich could eat it frequently. Ordinary people usually ate plain food such as bread, cheese, and eggs. Apart from chicken's eggs, they ate eggs from ducks, geese, and wild birds. So when you look at this through the spirit and you combine it with what the elder mentioned. It puts a lot of context and perspective on the scriptures, especially accounts that mention meat, and it makes you think more deeply on why the meat is being expressly mentioned in certain accounts. And I want to get that really quick. So my first example is, you know what? Let's get this one. Let's go to Luke 15. So this is Luke 15. And I want to jump down to let's start up. So I'm going to start at verse 11. And this is the parable of the prodigal son. All right. And I want to show you through the spirit a detail that kind of highlights this point. So Luke chapter 15 and verse 11 reads, and he said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. So the son basically took his inheritance early, went into a great city and fumbled the bag. All right. And then a mighty famine in the land, and he began to struggle basically. All right. So it says that he joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. So he basically sold himself as a hired servant. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. All right, so verse 23, it mentions the father being so excited that he got the best robe. You know, he put a ring on the hand of the son, put shoes on his feet, and then he makes a mention of the fatted calf. All right. Now let's read a little bit more, and then I'll touch some points. Verse 24 reads, For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to be merry. Now his elder son was in the field. And as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said unto him, Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he hath received him safe and sound. So again, the fatted calf is mentioned a second time. Verse 28 reads, And he was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. And he answering said to his father, Lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgressed I at any time thy commandment, and yet thou never gavest me a kid, that I might make merry with my friends. Now, when you go into this word kid, all right, it is arephos.
Strong's G 2056, Eriphos. Eriphos. Thayer's Lexicon, Eriphion. Eriphion.
All right, so it's Eriphos, and it says a kid or genitive case, goat, kid. But the point is that he's mentioning the son. He's mentioning the father cutting a cattle, all right, or basically preparing meat for a meal. He's not even upset about the music and the dancing. He's more upset about the fatted calf that's being dressed for this celebration, which highlights something very important. All right, verse 30 reads, "But as soon as thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. And he said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. It was meet that we should make merry and be glad, for this thy brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found." So you see, a lot of the brother's grievance is surrounded by the fatted calf, all right, which is comparable to Jake being in the club popping bottles. All right, it's a status symbol, all right, or it's a symbol of an important event. You know, people pop champagne. In the ancient world, a fatted calf was important, all right? I wouldn't say it was important, but it represented something important was happening at that point, all right? Because people did not eat meat often, like the elder brought out, all right? So this is the word for fatted, and it says yoros, and it says fattened, fatted, all right, fattened. All right, it says to feed with wheat to fatten. All right, now I want to do something really quick through the Spirit. I want to go to Wikipedia, and I want to grab fatted calf. All right, and check this out. It says fatted calf is a metaphor or symbol of festive celebration and rejoicing for someone's long-awaited return. It derives from the parable of the prodigal son in the New Testament. In biblical times, people would often keep at least one piece of livestock that was fed a special diet to fatten it up, thus making it more flavorsome when prepared as a meal. Slaughtering this livestock was to be done on rare and special occasions. Thus, when the prodigal son returns, the father kills a fatted calf to show that the celebration is out of the ordinary. So this is one of those examples that shows you how meat is a luxury, all right? And it was used at times to express the importance of an event or the status of a person, all right? Now, I want to get this one as well. And it's just a more simpler example of meat being associated with a celebration, all right, or something important happening. All right, this is Genesis 18:1. And it reads, "And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on. For therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. Now for those who don't know through the Spirit, and there are many lessons done on this, the 3 men represents Yahweh Shai, all right, and 2 angels that were with him, okay? Now, again, verse 6 reads, And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the earth. And Abram ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf, tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it. All right, so again, you know, Abraham is moving around to make this event a show or gesture of honor and respect for the guests, all right, the 3 men. Because when you read down in that same chapter, you know, basically Yahweh Shai says he will come back according to the time of life, and he will, and Sarah will conceive a son, all right? So this was a very important, all right, event, all right? And one of the ways to mark its importance, Abraham went and got a tender calf. All right, so when you get that word tender, it's says rack, All right. And it says, tender, delicate, soft. It says tender, spoken of little children, of cattle, young and tender of flesh. All right. So he got a nice little tender calf, all right, to accommodate, all right, and make sure that it was known by the guest at least that this was a very important event. All right, so I just wanted to go through those through the spirit and just highlight a beautiful point that was made by the elders in that video. All right, Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity.